Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Celente, and it's Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. And once again, we are honored to have with us a man of men, a person that really respects what the founding fathers fought for and what they gave us, things that they ripped up now called the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And is Judge Andrew Napolitano, and he has a new article coming out, it'll be out tomorrow, about another way of how they're robbing us of our freedom and how serious this really is. And it's in a place, I think once upon a time, it belonged to another country called Mexico, but now it's New Mexico. Hey, Judge, how you doing?
I'm fine, Gerald. How are you? The governor of New Mexico has just become a tyrant. She thinks that by executive decree, by signing a piece of paper, she can take away rights that are natural human rights, that are guaranteed by the Second Amendment, that the Supreme Court reinforced just a year and a half ago, that are guaranteed by federal law, that are guaranteed by New Mexico Constitution, and that are guaranteed by New Mexico law, simply by declaring an emergency. I'm speaking, of course, of the right to keep and bear arms. She issued a decree prohibiting anyone, even people who are lawfully authorized to do so, from carrying weapons in the city of Albuquerque because of an uptick in violent crime. She thinks, of course, that just by characterizing this as a health emergency from somewhere in the cosmos, she gets the authority to interfere with our rights. There are a lot of problems with this, not the least of which is that Justice Scalia, in the Heller opinion, defined the right to keep and bear arms as an individual personal right, as a pre-political right, meaning it existed before the government because it comes from our humanity, and as the modern day mechanical extension of your natural right to self-defense. So she thinks that by signing a piece of paper, she can strip human beings in the city of Albuquerque of their modern day natural right to self-defense. Here's what the police think about it. The police chief of Albuquerque said, I'm not enforcing this decree. The sheriff of the county in which Albuquerque is located said, I'm not enforcing this decree because I'm not going to go to jail for violating people's Second Amendment rights. So the governor has ordered New Mexico State Police, instead of patrolling the highways, which is what they get paid to do and what the law requires them to do under New Mexico law, to patrol the streets of Albuquerque looking for law-abiding citizens with valid gun permits and valid carry permits who are carrying guns in defiance of her decree. She's the governor, not the legislature. She can't make up law. No government can interfere with natural rights. Only a jury can after we've been convicted of violating somebody else's rights. Gerald, this is Constitutional Law 101. This is not advanced legal theory. This woman is a lawyer as well as the governor. She took an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, same oath that I did. And she's violated that oath and trashed the Constitution.
Is there any blowback in terms of this legally going on in New Mexico?
Yes, there are several lawsuits that have been filed, and of course, there's blowback in the media. The governor was interviewed by a sympathetic interviewer on CNN yesterday, and the interviewer said to her point blank, "Do you think the criminals will obey your decree?" And the governor said, "No." Oh, and where do you get this emergency authority from? Well, just because I'm the governor. Sounds like George W. Bush after 9/11. Just because I'm the president, I can order the CIA to kill and the NSA to spy. These people have no respect for human dignity, no respect for natural rights, no respect for the constitutions they have sworn to preserve, protect, and defend. She's getting tremendous blowback, and she has to get tremendous blowback. For all we know, this is just a dry run to see how far the authoritarians can go. What civil liberties will they crush next? We all remember what happened 3 years ago when they crushed your right to travel, your right to speak, your right to assemble, your right to worship, your right to go to a store, your right to stand within 6 feet of another person, your right to regulate your face. And they got away with it. Although there are some lawsuits that are now maturing and are reversing those decrees. The decrees, of course, are gone. They should have been reversed at the time. So this has to be monitored and aggressively scrutinized, or it will happen again and again and again.
Well, again, the stupidity of this, and even the clown on CNN, as you mentioned, said, this is going to stop criminals from doing what they want. How about the war on drugs? Remember that one? You wanted to get drugs. You get drugs anywhere you want. A criminal wants to get a gun. What are they? They don't talk about, I think it was like 50 million new gun permits when they locked down the COVID war thing.
Correct.
Look at all the guns out there. There are hundreds of millions of guns out there, and now you're putting a regulation on to stop guns when everybody got guns, and any criminal that wants to get a gun is going to get a gun.
It's a very strange state. It has a very pro-gun history, a very traditional, family-oriented, Catholic, Hispanic history, and yet the governor and the legislature are and the senators are a bunch of liberal Democrats. So she's defying everything out there. She's ruining her political career, and I'm sure you and I and the people watching us now couldn't care less about her political career. But she may cause the death of innocents by denying people the right to defend themselves. She actually wrote a law and said, by the way, if you violate this, it's 5 years in jail or a $5,000 fine. She actually went so far as to write the law as if she were the legislature.
Again, you were talking about the lockdowns. Here, this is from March 20th, 2020. Cuomo orders all non-essential New York workers to stay home. A little arrogant boy of nothing. A little daddy's boy born on third base and thought he had a home run.
Well, but Gerald,
piece of arrogant garbage. I'm changing the name of the Tappan Zee Bridge. I'm naming it the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge, and it's going to cost you $30 million to do all these new signs because you forgot to put the M in there. Now rip down those signs and put up the right ones.
Well, you're not making that up. That's
I know.
true about the M. But what you forgot about the lockdowns is the exceptions: liquor stores and tattoo parlors. It was just absurd. You couldn't go to Costco, you couldn't go to Walmart, but you could go to a liquor store and you could go to a tattoo parlor. Oh, don't try and find a Catholic mass. Don't try and find a synagogue, because we're shutting those down. And the bishops don't close the Catholic churches. This actually happened in New Jersey. We're going to send 5 state troopers to arrest a 76-year-old Roman Catholic bishop.
Yep. And again, it's one after another.
Well, that's why we need to publicize what she's done. Last week, the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, that's Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. This is the most conservative and libertarian circuit court in the country, reviewed an injunction which prevented the government from attempting to coerce big tech into suppressing the speech the government hates and fears. The case originated in the Trump administration when the FBI was badgering Facebook and Twitter, pre Elon Musk, to suppress speech critical of vaccines. One of the people they named was our friend RFK Jr., a federal judge who got the case and enjoined the whole government from talking to anybody about the freedom of speech. Last week, an appellate court reinforced that temporary restraining order, but crafted an exception for the most dangerous thing in the government that most of your listeners have probably never heard of. It's called CISA, C-I-S-A. It's the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Translation, it's the part of Homeland Security that interferes with the internet. This appellate court, the most conservative and libertarian in the country, lifted the injunction on CISA and allowed them to continue to intimidate big tech, kept the injunction on the FBI, kept the injunction on Joe Biden himself, who doesn't personally do this, kept the injunction on the White House, but lifted it on this secretive, relatively unknown, but extremely powerful, shadowy group in the government that most Americans have never heard of, called CISA. By the way, who created CISA? Another little daddy's boy. Thank you, George W. Bush, for creating Homeland Security and CISA. It has really kept us safe. Has it kept our liberties safe, Mr. President?
You know, you're saying how they're robbing us of our freedom and our liberty.